What's up, guys? WWE SummerSlam Night 1 in the books, and quite an ending, as you just saw there at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. We will talk about everything from Night 1 of SummerSlam. SummerSlam Saturday, first ever two-night SummerSlam. And yes, I'm sure we will start with the biggest development of all, and that was the surprise, or maybe not so surprising, cash in from Seth Rollins, depending on where you stood on the whole injury thing with him. But we'll let everybody hop in here. I see a lot of you guys starting to jump in already, so we will get into the discussion. Good to see you guys hopping in, giving your thoughts on what has happened so far. And yeah, it was an interesting night of action, to say the least. You knew kind of the way they were structuring it, they had to sort of finish with something big. And I'll tell you guys a little bit later why I think what just happened could make for an interesting finish tonight too, because I think that opens up the possibility for something big that could happen at the end of night 2 now, and we'll talk about it. But for now, let's get it going. I see a lot of differing opinions from you guys in the comments. Remember, if you want to jump in, make sure we get to your chat, leave a super chat, because I know you guys will have lots of thoughts on this show, but we will start with Seth Rollins, who did cash in on CM Punk after what was, I thought, a tremendous main event with Punk and Gunther. You want to talk about a sort of old school professional wrestling type match. That was kind of exactly what you expected from those two. And it kind of shows you that for anyone who wants to knock Punk right now, like, Punk can still go. I mean, this guy, him and Gunther, now I know, look, it's Gunther, right? He's going to give anyone a good match in terms of what he could do. But yeah, I think this was a tremendous main event. And I think now you kind of look at where this thing stands. And by the way, too, before we jump in, remember, as always, leave your SummerSlam Night 1 scores in the chat. Let me know what you thought of Night 1 and your grade scores, whatever you want to use for that overall. But so when you look at it now, this whole thing with Rollins, like we said, you could tell not immediately when it happened. I told you guys, I thought he was injured right whenever it happened. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not something you usually do. But now, after the reports came out shortly after with, with Rollins and the injury and everything, and we mentioned all the different rumors that were out there. I mean, yeah, like I just could tell at that point when they were so vague about, everything, right? And you could connect all the dots, whether it was Heyman, sort of bringing up all the different aspects every single time, extended amount of time. He said that, right? I mean, how many times did he say it? And you knew the more he kept bringing it up, it was something where, you kind of had the feeling that this was getting more like we thought it was. This was going to be something where they were going to kind of play everyone. This was the plan B and everything like that. And it really did, sort of, and bring another point here too. It does. You go all the way back to sort of, the short title reign, and Punk has the title in his hands. It's very similar to the way it was the last time around when we saw this kind of same sequence. And, my whole thing was, one of my predictions I told you guys, like, I could see the scenario where maybe Punk never actually even gets his hands on the belt. And at that point, Rollins comes out, never actually gets to hold the title. They gave him the title, but probably even more effective to have him just rip it away from him right there. So, yeah, because everything was connecting together, Rollins going on the Rich Eisen show, telling everyone he just knew it was going to be a while, and, he needed another week or two to be able to, be able to get the swelling to go down a little bit. What a story that was, right? And we've had absolutely no details whatsoever. Triple H, very vague. We mentioned the Triple H kind of tip on that was that he's the one who brought it up in that press conference at Evolution on that Sunday after Saturday night's main event. All the stuff connects together now. And, the last video we did, you guys watched it a couple of days ago. I threw out that scenario that, of course, I talked about with Rick at the Takedown on SI. We talked about it this week, and I said, I like that idea that maybe you have, Rollins come out, and that you could tell they were kind of teasing it, right? He comes out on the stage, and he goes to exit, and I'm thinking, all right, total misdirection here, where they're going to have him come out to make sure we all see that he's on these crutches. And then when he walks away, we're like, all right, well, clearly, if he's not going to cash in on Punk, this guy's nowhere near ready, right? But then maybe he comes out tomorrow night and cashes in. I thought that's where they were headed, but I actually like the way they did it, where he turns around, drops it, and it's like just the whole ruse, right? They're calling it the ruse of the century. So I like the way they did it. And I know a lot of you guys are talking about, like it became more predictable as we got close. And I know someone's mentioning the side plates. If the side plates were red on there, were they already kind of the tip off, possibly? But I didn't see that, so I'll have to go back and look at it after the stream. But so Punk cashing in, not a surprise. I think I said it going in, guys. We talked about it. The Punk Gunther matchup on a 3 weeks sort of build here, I was like, it made it more unpredictable because you're kind of thinking there's no way Gunther's going to lose this thing, right? But I kind of gave you my thought. I'm like, I just think Punk has to win. It's a big match. He needed a big win, and the best way to be able to push the story forward was going to be going back to Rollins and Punk, because they are going to be the two that just never finished with this thing, right? It's just going to always be this way. And I mean, yeah, and look, I'll bring up this comment here too. Like, this is what I was mentioning a second ago. Like, this was the match itself. Like, this was an old school wrestling match. And that's why I say, I know people can be split on Punk these days, but like, that guy just went out and put on, what, I mean, it's like, it's an old school wrestling type classic. Like, that's what he just did. And I know it's easy when you have kind of the partner of Gunther, but still, I just thought it was probably a match that we knew would be good, but I even thought they even exceeded expectations on my part. So, I thought it was a great match. And, now I think it's going to be a matter of like, where do we go from here, right? And I know some people have talked about, Michael brings it up here, where there was the report that came out about how Gunther has some kind of nose issue or something. And that's going to force him to take some time off after the show. And so maybe that played into it, right? I'm sure had something to where you kind of play it in that way. And perhaps that went into the thinking here of this was the best way to move forward. If Gunther had to take a little bit of time off, we don't know for sure, but it sounds that way. Then you get the title off of him, you get it to Punk, and then the best way see, the thing is, you couldn't have let Punk win and just be that, right? Even if Rollins is injured, you had to do something, because that's been Rollins' whole entire motto, right? It's that he's never going to let Punk become the champion. And so when Punk does become champion, Rollins is there to immediately rip it away from him. And so I think, too, one of the things that kept me stuck on this whole Rollins thing was the fact that even when we did kind of the scenario where maybe he cashes in on Cody and Cena, and by the way, if you're just joining in, I now have a change in my theory for Cody and Cena. We'll talk about it here in just a little bit. But I think this is one where, like, when you look at the way this thing sets up now, to where I couldn't sort of get past the idea that when you looked at kind of the way these two and everything was building up, right? That it was just going to be something where you felt like Rollins had to stay on Raw. And that was the thing that I kept getting stuck on. I'm like, Rollins moving to SmackDown did not make a lot of sense to me. And so while the brand split means not a lot right now, I just kept thinking, I don't know if you want to take Rollins off of Raw. I think you want to keep him on Raw. So if he would win the championship over there, then he goes to SmackDown, right? But I don't know. I think this was something where I kind of looked at it and thought, I mean, it probably needed to be Rollins staying on Raw, and this was the way to get there. So I think, again, great main event. Just thought it was between those two. We shouldn't be shocked by that. If that's the best match of the weekend, I think I'd probably take that just based on how good it was. But I do like the way they played it out with Rollins, even though we thought it could be a little more shocking. Triple H, I saw one of the clips they played or something where talking about how, like, the shock factor. If it's too predictable, we're going to pivot, right? I thought maybe they'd pivot because maybe it became too predictable that Rollins was just going to cash in on Punk. So, but sometimes the most predictable part, it's not always the worst idea if it's telling the story, right? And we go all the way back now. I mean, how long between these two? So, even though some people are not a big fan, Matthew's comment here got me cracking up. Seth's like a fart that won't go away. That's this guy. Like, you can't get rid of this guy, right? He's everywhere. And so I think, that's kind of funny on that. But yeah, that's the way they're playing it up with Rollins. For Punk, that's gonna definitely be the case, Matthew. Like, his entire career, that's what Seth's gonna be to CM Punk. I think it's a great analogy there. So I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, so now you're looking at all the possibilities, right? And so now we know we're going to get back to it. We're going to get Rollins versus Punk again. And you have to give Punk the rematch. And now I think it's fair to kind of ask, what is Punk's future down the road in terms of the championship? I'll tell you, the thing I was kind of coming up with, I feel like if we're looking way ahead, if Punk were to win the championship again, I don't know if he wins it back from Rollins. I almost wonder if this is something where next year at WrestleMania you get a Cody versus Punk match, because I don't know how much longer you're going to have to do that match. And I feel like we've had the little teases between those two for back-to-back years now. And I'm just thinking if there's a year to do it, next year may be the year at WrestleMania to do Cody and Punk. So I don't know. Maybe it goes for the WWE Championship. Punk moves over, on that kind of front. So kind of curious about where we go on that. So, but yeah, we know we're getting one more, and I know you guys are bringing it up. Carlos brings up, Will brought it up in the comments. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe they do go until next year's WrestleMania. Maybe it is Punk versus Rollins, the WrestleMania match we never got one-on-one, right, before the injury last year. Maybe that's where we get to. So could happen for sure. But I still, right now, if I had to put a bet on it, okay, I would actually go with Cody versus Punk next year. I think there's a good chance that could happen. So could definitely see it playing out that way. But all right. Beyond that, like I said, so Gunther sounds like he may be taking some time off. You've got Rollins now as the champion. Punk is going to be chasing Rollins. We know that. And now I think it is kind of interesting. Another good comment here, like, we're also building further down the line to Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, because let's not forget, right? Breakker basically said he was the guy that was taking over the group on Monday. I'm kind of curious to see how they tie everybody in. Who knew what? Was everyone in on the plan? Those kind of things, which it seemed that way in the post-match celebration. I'd have to go back and watch it again. But you're eventually going to have Breakker and Rollins. We know that. Anytime there's a group that's put together, you're going to have those guys go at it eventually down the road. I don't know if that's anytime soon, but I do think that's a big match they're going to get to at some point. So, all right. So there were some initial thoughts. We'll hit on everything. And of course, remember, guys, we'll get to all your comments, questions, and all that after I give you some initial thoughts, as we usually do, kind of on the night itself. And then we'll get back to your comments. But for now, let's go right into the Breakker thing, because I know there was a clip out there circulating on social media that Bron Breakker looked injured. I haven't seen anything. I've told you I do some writing over at the Takedown on SI, Sports Illustrated, and I haven't seen anything. We haven't kind of, been able to sort of confirm anything on that on an injury front yet, but I'm sure we'll have something on social media soon enough, probably as this is going on, to kind of see how this plays out. But yeah, I think it's kind of one where, my goodness, hopefully this is something where Breakker's not injured, because you would not want that. I hope so. You definitely don't want that to be the case for sure. So the match itself I thought was really good to open the show. It feels like forever ago now, though it wasn't that long of a show. But you kind of knew Roman and Jey were going to get the win. We said that. Bron got their moments coming up on Raw. I mean, that was kind of their big shining moment, right? They destroyed Roman and Jey. And so now I think it's kind of a scenario where you knew Roman and Jey had to get their win back. By the way, I saw the stat. It's Roman's first win since what? The Raw Netflix debut back on January the 6th. So, yeah, that's wild, even though he hasn't wrestled a lot of matches. It's not like he's had a lot of opportunities. But, yeah, so I think that's kind of interesting on that. But we knew he had to get a big win back. I thought, by the way, speaking of this, and it doesn't feel like forever ago, but when Reigns did the dive, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I thought Roman Reigns was about to break his neck. Did you see how far this man flew on that dive over the top? He flew over Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, who were still a pretty good ways away from the apron there. And as he was flying there, I'm telling you, I thought if he did not do a little bit of a turn there at the end, like, Reigns would have broke his neck. And so I'm glad he did it. It was awesome. Please don't ever do it again, because I was scared when I saw this guy flying. And as soon as I realized he was going to go over both those guys, I'm thinking, oh no, this could be an absolute disaster. So, yeah, he did, guys. Like, he's got, hey, that's what you're not going to take away from Roman Reigns. Like, this guy may not be a full-time wrestler anymore, but the man still got his athleticism because he just soared out there. And even before he did it, I'm like, I haven't seen Reigns do this in a while. I don't know if I necessarily want to see this. But then, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's getting up there. And then I'm like, oh, no, he's going over him. And so he almost landed directly on his head, Rob. There's no question about that. So, and then Bronson Reed did one that also did not look great. Breaker also caught Reigns with something early in the match, too, where he like jumped up and kind of hit him with the shoulder. It looked like he just clocked him right there on the face. But hard-hitting match between those guys. And yeah, no surprise to see Reigns. And yeah, no surprise to see Reigns and Jey get the win. As Dre says, want to make sure he didn't pull a Jey and come up short. Yeah, I mean, you had two other alternatives there, I guess, and at least he got out of there okay, at least from what we know. But hopefully that is the case as well for Bron Breakker, because it did look like he was limping based on the stuff. But he could have just been selling, who knows. So now, as you guys have brought up, we can also tie this in to Rollins because, yeah, I mean, someone said in the comments a second ago too, like, if the plan was originally to get to Reigns versus Rollins, which we thought was going to happen at SummerSlam, did you reverse course on that just to be able to do the cash-in? Now, remember, I think you still could have done that if the Rollins injury was still real to a certain extent, right? And I think that became kind of the reporting here, is that Rollins may have been injured, but just nowhere near to the extent they were pushing it. So you could have had both sides actually have some truth to it. And so that may have been my thing, where it's like, maybe he was good enough to cash in, but he wasn't good enough to deliver on a match like that with Roman Reigns. Because if you're having that match, that's going to main event one of the nights. So maybe there, like we said, maybe that's where we do settle on, is that it's something where you could look at it and say, well, maybe Rollins had a little bit of an injury. They played it up, exaggerated it to make us think that he was going to be out a long time. They used it for the storyline. I think that is kind of something that you could have played with there and moved that away. And two, I mean, sure, Roman versus Seth Rollins does still feel like a WrestleMania main event you can work with. Yeah, so I think that's something to consider too. And on the Bron Breakker thing, yeah, don't, as Sigmund says, like, what do we ever believe now? And that's what you establish with this whole Rollins thing, is like, what can you actually believe when they decided to go this route? What do you believe? Because is everybody faking? Is everybody, like, we don't know, because you kind of have this precedent now with Rollins. Although, as I've said before, let's not act like this is the first time this has ever been done by a heel. Heels in the past have always played up injuries and, stuff like that within the storyline, but it's such a different era now where you have, rumors 24/7, you've got social media and all this other stuff. So it's just a lot harder to, kind of decipher sometimes. And clearly they went to great lengths to try to protect this one, even though we kind of, after that first report came out from John Pollock over at Post Wrestling, we kind of had our suspicions. And then you start to connect things together and like, all right, well, something's going down here. And that's what it was. So, all right, so there we go. So as we said, Rollins is the new champion. Roman Reigns flying in, as Sigmund says, over everyone as he gets the win with Jey. A couple other quick notes on the other things. I want to be honest, I don't have a lot else to say about some of the other matches because I didn't think there was a lot necessarily to work with here. And so I think it is something where the Jelly Roll thing is probably going to be the next most talked about thing. And I'll be honest, like, was Jelly Roll Bad Bunny? No. But did I think Jelly Roll did fine? Yeah, I think he was okay. Like, I think it was probably something where they clearly set it up for him to have the big dramatic return, right? And so that's what they did. And he worked a lot more in the match than I thought he would. I thought he'd be the guy standing on the outside when it was Orton, right? It was Orton was the person who was kind of standing on the outside for most of the match. And it was Jelly Roll doing all the work. So they were beating him up, McIntyre and Logan Paul. They beat up Jelly Roll. I thought it was a good sort of, I really did. I thought it was kind of a good way to do it. And, again, he's not to Bad Bunny's level. But I thought Jelly Roll was fine. And it sounds like, if you guys saw the rumors out there in the reports as well, sure, like, it sounds like he's going to get some more matches. maybe more matches. I don't know if they're going to do singles matches with Jelly Roll. I'm not sure if I see that, but it does sound like he could have more matches in the future. So, guy clearly trained hard. I mean, you saw everybody bringing up the stats about, the weight loss and all this other stuff and how much he's been training. So, yeah, and he was out there a long time. So, give him his props. But McIntyre and Logan Paul get the win. And I mean, look, I don't hate that. I know we were like, we can definitely see the visual where Orton and Jelly Roll were going to get kind of the, the camera moment where they're taking all the pictures and all this other stuff, but it didn't happen. And so I like the fact that McIntyre and Paul won, to be honest with you, because I think it's good for Drew McIntyre. I really don't care about Logan Paul in terms of that signature type win, but I think having McIntyre get a win when we thought, all right, wouldn't you rather see maybe McIntyre versus Orton? I thought this was fine, and a celebrity match, which we're used to in WWE, it is what it is, and so more matches to come with Jelly Roll, it sounds like. All right, so one of the bigger surprises on this show, no question about it, to me, was Tiffany Stratton beating Jade Cargill, because I was all in on that prediction, no doubt. Absolutely. That is one I got wrong, because if you guys looked at the betting odds, Jade was a huge favorite earlier in the week. And as we got closer to SummerSlam, that number started to plummet to where Jade was still the favorite from all the betting services out there, but she was nowhere near as big of a favorite as she was earlier in the week. And this was one where I thought WWE was going to take the chance here on Jade. And we've had a lot of conversations about Jade in these live streams, and people have brought up, I don't know if Jade's ready yet. And I've said, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know either in terms of, are they ready to kind of go all the way here with Jade? And my thinking was that if you're going to take a shot, this is probably the way to do it, to kind of basically give her the ball, right? And let her run with it and just see what happens. But Tiffany retains. And that was, again, a result that I thought was pretty surprising for a lot of reasons, because it just seemed like a lot of things were connecting together. Jay had just won the Queen of the Ring, right? She had beaten Asuka to have that opportunity, and Tiffany's had that title now for 8 months. And you look at the list, and I know Tiffany tweeted out something after her match where basically she ran down all the people she's beaten during this run. And yet it just continues. And so, honestly, when I'm looking at the available options for Tiffany now, there is only one left, and it's got to be Bianca. I mean, that has to kind of be the person to me that beats her. And if it's not Bianca, I don't know who it is. So clearly, I think maybe that's what they see instead of like, all right, we're going to give this to Jade. Maybe the belt goes to Bianca. And now, maybe you get to where it's one turns on the other, right? It's the Bianca-Jade dynamic. Maybe that becomes Jade's first ever singles win is by beating Bianca. But to me, that probably comes further down the road at WrestleMania, maybe at the earliest. So maybe the Jade thing is going to take a little more time. They're going to give her a little bit more here, give her more time to continue to have more in-ring experience. I thought at Evolution, I thought it was her best WWE match ever. I thought it was her best performance in that match she had with Naomi. I really did. And was this probably the best match? No, because it didn't really go that long. It only went, 7-8 minutes, I think it wound up being. So, a little surprise, I thought, with the finish here. But now that we know this is the direction they're going, you can kind of see the vision. Because if Bianca is going to return, which C-Dub, I did see, there were the reports out there, Bianca's set to return imminently here. So my guess is Bianca probably comes back on SmackDown. And so that's my thinking, because I just don't know where else you go unless you do the rematch, which I'm like, why do you go back to Tiffany and Jade again when I thought this was kind of the moment if you're going to go with Jade? So, and look, Curtis brings up the idea, hey, you've still got the whole thing with Naomi too. So tying that in, like, that could have been something, and you can still do that at some point. And that's where, like, we get into this brand split, right? Are we doing a draft? Are we not doing a draft? Does the brand split matter? If it doesn't, I've told you guys, I don't care about the brand split. Just put whoever you want on any show. I'm fine with it. So I think that's where, if they have the flexibility, then I think that's just something where, yes, getting Jade back to Naomi probably makes sense. Bianca and Naomi, you have to still tie those three in at some point. Maybe that's next year's triple threat match. The women's triple threat at WrestleMania next year, maybe it's those three. They've done pretty well with those. So maybe that's what happens. All right, so there are my thoughts on Jade. We'll talk more about that if you guys have questions and comments here in just a bit. Remember, we go a little long here, so we're just going to give some thoughts up front, and then I'll talk with you guys about everything else. Okay, and Michael, we'll get to night 2. Don't worry, I have a theory on night 2 now. So Brandon was there. Shout out to Brandon, long time follower on the channel here, always jumps into the live chats. Always appreciate him. Says, have no voice. Was there live? All I can say, this wasn't a prediction. This was definitely a spoiler. Sing his song. That's it. So, yeah, again, I'm glad. I hope you enjoyed it, Brandon, because, man, that was 50,000 people at that show. And I think that's where, again, you can say all we want about WWE. The fact that they got 50,000 tickets out for tonight, 50,000 tickets out for tomorrow night, it's just that shows you where the business is at right now. So even if I thought overall this night one, and I'll kind of cap it up off in just a second, we talk about the other matches we haven't mentioned, but still it doesn't matter that people are paying these tickets. And Brandon, hopefully your tickets were not the what were the ones we talked about a couple months ago? The premium VIP package seats were like $40,000 a piece or something. But hopefully Brandon didn't have to shell out that much for those tickets. But all right, so quickly the other stuff. Sami Zayn, Karrion Kross, I don't have a lot to say. I mean, it really wasn't much. It seemed like a pretty clear send-off for Karrion Kross, as we kind of talked about in the predictions video. Where does he go from here? I don't know. I know people are kind of pointing out, too, like they were promoting Karrion Kross's new book that he just put out on the pre-show. And it's like, if you're doing all that, either you're just really doing this guy a solid on his way out, or maybe he is coming back. So I don't, it's kind of interesting to know where things are going from here. But I think you could definitely tell this was it for Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross in some way, shape, or form. They kind of teased Sami Zayn going to the dark side. We knew that wasn't going to happen now. And you could tell Sami kind of finally cracked a smile coming out there, in the aisle after the match, because you could tell it was like that big sigh of relief for Sami. He's finally done with his Karrion Kross thing. Now he can go back to what matters, and what matters is the championship. And we talked about Rollins earlier too. Now you can absolutely look at a scenario where Sami Zayn is now tied in with Seth Rollins too, given kind of everything they've teased with those two. But I still think, to me, it is going to be something where Sami, as of right now, is the favorite to win the Royal Rumble next year and goes on to WrestleMania to face someone for either the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship. One of the two. And so I think that's it. That's kind of where I stand on that. So Sami probably gets back to turning his focus to that, and that's where, with Rollins and Punk, when does that happen? Rollins and Zayn, you can definitely do that one as well. We mentioned Rollins and Reigns. That's the thing. Like, we can talk about the predictability, of the Rollins thing, and we knew there were two obvious options in play with him, but it does give you your best sort of outcomes in terms of what you can do here, right? Like, these are the two easiest outcomes for where they go from here, and he's got a lot of different matches, and so I don't know. So it's just kind of something. But all right. The other match that we didn't talk about was the Tag Team Championships. I told you guys, thought that was the no-brainer of the weekend. I said I just thought Charlotte and Alexa had to win it, and they did, and that's great, because you could tell the fans are still kind of riding the wave. Brandon, you can give me a better idea. I know, we can hear it on screen and stuff, but was there still kind of that wave of positive momentum in terms of the fan support for Charlotte? Sounded like it to me. And so we know how big of a drastic difference that is from where things were for Charlotte 8 months ago when she came back. And I think by having her paired with Alexa, you have to keep going with this until it just eventually is going to fall apart, right? They put the little tease in at the end where you thought Charlotte was about to kick Alexa right in the face. She didn't, and they win the titles. And so, Brandon says, when Charlotte got the hot tag, and that's where, like, you could hear it on the, on the broadcast, but sometimes it's a much better kind of vibe if you're there and kind of hear, how it goes down. But yeah, so think about, like I said, such a drastic difference from where we were with Charlotte that many months ago. And so I like it. And what I like about it too is that now you can use Charlotte and Alexa on Raw. And so you don't just have to contain them to SmackDown. They can go back and forth, both brands. And so I like this pairing, and I really kind of like where they're headed with this. And I hope neither turn on the other anytime soon. It's probably going to happen. Maybe that's a WrestleMania match next year. I could see that. But I just hope they ride this for a little bit, because I think this team is really working for those two. So, all right. Boom. Timing good. We usually get about the 30-minute mark, and then we go into the second half of the show where we focus on you guys and kind of go into everything you want to talk about. But if you are jumping in for the first time, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It helps out the channel. Again, I appreciate all you guys. I know some of you have joined the members tier here at Wrestling Reaction, where you can join in and get some bonus content that I throw your way every now and then, and all that kind of stuff. I'll put the link to it in the chat here, so if you guys want to do that, you can. You can be a member of the Tribal Chiefs, is what we call it. So you can be the Tribal Chiefs here at Wrestling Reaction and put some bonus stuff up for you guys as well. But all right, here's what we'll do. We will get to your comments and questions, any thoughts you have. Remember, I probably have missed it if it was on there earlier, but be sure to send any questions, comments you have in now, and we will kind of get into that afterwards. So, all right, some of the things here. Let me pull up some of your comments that I had starred, and we will kind of get into some of the things as well. And I know we maybe can start with Night 2 quickly, because this is a perfect segue, I think, to talk about Night 2 for a second, where I mentioned earlier, now that you have Rollins cash in, we said in the 2 videos we did this week, one we threw out the predictions video where, all right, I think Seth Rollins cashes in on Punk. He's the champion. We threw out the second scenario where Punk, maybe doesn't win. Rollins comes out, does something to prevent Punk from winning the title, and then you have Rollins cash in on Cody or Cena on Night 2. Now that they have this set up to where Rollins is out of the picture, well, what happens now? Now it's Cody Rhodes and John Cena. There is no cash-in potential. It is Cody Rhodes, John Cena street fight where there's no rules, which means there can be anyone interfering, anyone can make an impact, and all of that. So now I would say our curiosity level for the potential of the final boss himself showing up, I think just increased a little bit, because you do now have an opening for that. If Rollins was not a factor tonight, then we would have went into tomorrow night thinking that Rollins was the strong favorite to be the person who came out at the end in some way, shape, or form and played a role in the finish to the main event or after the main event. But now I think you've got to seriously consider, after what they did on SmackDown, which I know everyone's talking about, what an abrupt turn that was for John Cena. All of a sudden, Cena has come to his senses on a random SmackDown before SummerSlam. Not at SummerSlam, not at another PLE. He did it on SmackDown before the big show. So now that sets up both of these guys being the good guys going into their match, right? And they certainly dropped some hints in there. Everyone's kind of bringing up one of them. They shook hands with their left. Everyone thought that was kind of curious. And so I think for everything we mentioned, all the possible scenarios we talked about this week in multiple videos, some that just completely contradicted the others, because this is what we do. We talk about all the possible scenarios that can play out. It's got to be one here where I don't know if this is just about Cody and Cena now. I think you've already set this precedent tonight where you have this huge, shocking ending, which I know for some people wasn't as shocking. I understand. But, for people who were not as into it as we are, maybe it was pretty shocking. Where now you have this play out. Tomorrow night, you've got to have something that can rival that. And we said this feels like the do-over from WrestleMania 41. All the Travis Scott rumors and reports that came out over the past week. Is that a big misdirection? Is Travis Scott going to be there tomorrow night with The Rock? Is that going to happen? My thoughts. I'm not rooting for that. But could it happen? I don't know. Because what Cena said last night, pretty much, I don't know. I think they've taken some shots at Travis Scott here over the past 48 hours or so. But I think you now have a couple things in motion where, yes, I absolutely think the turns are now in play based on the fact that Rollins is out of the picture. Or, as some people have mentioned in the comments, is Rollins out of the picture? Does Rollins somehow align with, is there some sort of alignment there? Could that be a possibility? I don't know how that looks because, again, I'm not sure. But I think that you now probably do have something where I don't think you can just have, let's say Cena, let's bring up the scenarios here, okay? Let's say Cena just turns back tomorrow night. Is that exciting when I think a lot of people were not necessarily buying what he said on SmackDown anyways? I don't know if that's the game you play here. Or maybe Cena does turn back, and he does it so well, and he takes it so far that we're like, oh, well, shit, this guy's never going to come back to the good side. John Cena he's bad. He's bad all the way to the end. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But obviously the other scenario is, yes, maybe it is Cody makes the turn. And they have teased this, and this is what we said. Like, as adamant as I've been that I don't think WWE wants to do this with Cody just yet. Because I see why they would not want to do this with Cody. You can still see them dropping the hints along the way. That will eventually, when it does happen, it's going to make sense because they have dropped the hints. I just am still of the thinking that, man, I don't know if Cody's the guy you want to turn right now. But you know what? Coming out of this, let's consider things, right? I mean, you've got Roman Reigns going off to film the Street Fighter movie, which, by the way, Cody's got to do that too. I mean, Cena has how many dates left? We know he's going to be on the big PLEs. I don't think he's going to be on a lot of the probably, Raw or SmackDown shows. He'll be on some of them, I assume, but not a lot of them now. Punk's tied up with Rollins. Like, you've got all this other stuff, and so I'm thinking, like, there is a way to do a hard reset here for someone. Is it Cena? Is it Cody? But again, like I said, things have been so quiet on the front of The Rock right now that I think that may be by design. And you can never discount the idea. And I said back in April, when The Rock went on the Pat McAfee show and basically tried his best, he tried his damnedest to be able to kind of shove some of the blame for him not being at WrestleMania 41 to someone else or shove it away from him, right? I've got to think that there is some sort of do-over that they want to get to, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not going to put my trust in The Rock right now because the schedule, we thought it was going to happen at WrestleMania. It just seemed like the most logical place for it to happen. But the fact that they're doing it again, it's a rematch. And so to fix the problems from the last one, because the criticism was there, we've all talked about it, this would be a way to do it. And so let's find out, right? Let's find out if maybe this is it. So Sigmund says, Cody's not a good guy. Not behaving the way he has been. Mama Rhodes would be astonished. That could be the final straw there. You get The Rock, you get Cody Rhodes, and you get Mama Rhodes. That is the true trio that could carry WWE forward. But, yeah, I mean, do we just get the same reverse here, where it's Cody hugs John Cena, and all of a sudden Cody's the one that does the face, right? Cena did the face at Elimination Chamber. Cody does the face here. Cody turns. Shocking. Maybe. Because I think, like I said, that to me, the biggest thing is going to be the crowd tomorrow night. And how does the crowd react to both of these guys? I know what I think. I think the crowd's going to react very positively to John Cena. You're going to get the 50-50 chance for both of them. But I still believe that Cena is going to be the overwhelming favorite here for people. And I think Cody will get some boos. And I think, as some people said too here, remember, this is a street fight. Anything Cody does in a street fight doesn't necessarily make him a heel because it's a street fight, right? He can do anything he wants because it's legal in a street fight. So I think there's just a lot of ways this could go. But I think getting Rollins out of the picture does add a lot more unpredictability now because we know it's not just going to be Cody and Cena. I'd be shocked if that's the case. It could happen, I suppose, if you want to do a hard turn with one or the other and you don't have anyone else factored into it. But, yeah, I don't know. It does sound like at least there is a thought that The Rock and all this could be, a possibility now. I'm not sure. You guys let me know what you think. I know you have been weighing in the comments. But, yeah, I'm more intrigued than I would have been, because had we not seen Rollins tonight, I think we all would have been expecting him tomorrow night. But now that he's out of the way, a lot of things can happen. All right, get to some of your questions here. Remember, if you want to leave a super chat, that way I can get to it and I will not miss your question. We have a lot of comments, a lot of questions coming in. So be sure to leave a super chat. Doesn't have to be much, but that'll make sure I can get to your question or your comment. We've got a bit still here on the show. So plenty of stuff to discuss. Dave says if Cody turns heel, who does he face going forward? Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? If Cody turns heel on Cena, you got to get to another match. And that's the thing. That's where I get a little hesitant because I'm like, I don't know if you want to do a part 3 with Cody and Cena, but maybe they do. The rumor was out there that Cena's last opponent was going to be Gunther. And I think it'd be a great last opponent for Cena. But, I mean, you've got, I'm trying to think, right? Like, it's Orton. Orton's got to be in the picture. So you've still got Cody, you've still got Orton. By the way, Chris has let me know here that Seth Rollins on the post show. So if anything comes from that, if you guys are listening or watching that, let me know. I'm sure that'd be pretty entertaining. I'll go back and watch it after the stream. But so yeah, who does Cody face? Who is Cody involved with if he does this? Well, see, and that's the thing too. If we tie in The Rock here, all right, and I know people are like, there's no chance it's happening. I'm just going to keep saying it because the whole story, whether we want to admit it or not, did revolve around The Rock at one point. So I think it's kind of something where if you bring The Rock back into this, he has to stay in the picture somehow, and he can't just pop up next year at WrestleMania, right? But you're not going to have him every week, and we know that. So it's just, I don't know, there's so much stuff here. Ricardo's going to go with the prediction that maybe it's Cody and Ron Killings, because where the hell's R-Truth? He had the one match with Cena, and that's been that, right? But I think that kind of shows you that was one where when WWE released him, they didn't really have any plans. And so he's had, a little roll-up win against Aleister Black, I think it was, and that was it. So, yeah. Javion's going with a higher percentage than I am. 100%. Dwayne's going to be there. That percentage is going up for me. But I also told you guys I thought he was going to be at WrestleMania, and I felt pretty confident about that. So, fool me once. Shame on, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So, I don't know. I'm not completely sold on it, but my ears are up for this one now. All right, let's talk about some other stuff here. Michael asks if Roman's leaving for Street Fighter, do you think Rollins will fight Jey, or is Jey going to go back with Jimmy and Jacob? Yeah, that's a good question too. We forgot about Jey. Jey can now fit into the picture with Rollins too. So see, that's what I mean. Like I know this Rollins thing became predictable a little bit, but look at all the matches that Rollins has now. He's got a lot to work with here. And so, you could Rollins Jey, Rollins Reigns, Rollins Punk. Like I mentioned, a bunch of other options too. Gunther, you still got Gunther. You could do Rollins and Gunther at some point. So, yeah, that's it. I'm with you, Michael. I think Jay's probably in a position where he comes with Rollins, but the more I think about him uniting with Jimmy and Fatu, I think that's only in like a draft scenario, right? Because you've got to somehow. I don't think you want to necessarily send Jay to SmackDown. But who knows? If Cody turns, then Cody and Jey. I know that's not going to be exciting for everyone, but they absolutely could revisit that at some point. All right, Javion says if Cody turns tomorrow, you think we'll get a faction? I don't know. Like I don't know if I like the Cody faction idea. I think if Cody makes this huge turn, I just think you want him to kind of stand on his own because that's going to be really enough at that point. You don't really need anything else to go along with Cody. And I think, but I do think it's kind of fascinating, right? Because you've got some of these guys in NXT that are getting ready to get called up, whether that's Ricky Saints, whether it's Ethan Page. Although there was a report, I think I saw that yesterday, like the CW just loves Ethan Page. And so I don't know if they're going to let him leave NXT anytime soon. CW may be like, not so fast. You got to stay on our network. So not sure. But yeah, I kind of like Cody standing on his own. I don't know if I like the faction idea. Now, faction, does that mean The Rock? Does that mean, Travis Scott? I don't know. Like, that would be, sure. Like, I'd be okay with that. But I don't know if you want Cody just with anybody. I think Cody standing on his own, finally turning. But I don't know, guys. For some reason, I'm just not there yet. And maybe they're going to do something that'll. But I say that, and I've told you all the reasons that they've hinted at it. And that's what I've contradicted myself. Because I'm like, they're telling me I should think about this Cody heel turn. But I just am like, from a business standpoint, I don't know. We'll see. We're going to find out. I hope it happens because we're going to have a big show tomorrow night if it does. So, all right. Yeah, Brandon brings up, too, the Jey thing. They do want to reunite the Usos. I know that because there was a rumor out there that they wanted to send Jimmy to Raw. And so if you send Jimmy to Raw, now that's where you could do that and say, all right, forget the whole Jacob Fatu, Solo, and all that, which where do they go from there? I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow night. But you could do the Usos versus Rollins and the whole faction, right? You do the Usos versus Bron. You can do, the Usos versus New Day. Like, you can get back to that at some point. I mean, that feels fresh again. Like, it's a little bit different than it used to be, where it felt like those teams were facing each other all the time, but chemistry's there. So, yeah, so I'm not sure. All right, let's see what else we got here. Remember, keep sending your questions and comments. And Curtis brings up a good idea too. I mean, look, that's where if Solo wins tomorrow night, I think that, and I don't know how you do it on the same brand, because I think it's hard. Because it's going to be hard to keep, I think, Jacob Fatu and Solo on the same brand if Solo retains the title. Because I don't know if you want to just keep that going, even though we know Survivor Series is several months away, and maybe they do keep this thing going. But I kind of am not against the idea that eventually those two guys split off and they're just away from each other, which I think's got to happen sooner rather than later. Because this feels like the blow-off match. You do a steel cage, feels like the blow-off match. So, yeah, like I think that's something to consider too. So, do they elevate Jacob Fatu into the world title picture, the WWE title picture? Because I know we're going to get there eventually, but I don't know if we're there yet. We'll see. All right. By the way, yeah, Peacock will have the replay of SummerSlam, so you can find that there. Yeah, everyone's talking about Zilla Fatu. Could that be something? I know they were gonna. I thought I saw they were gonna run it back with Zilla for the Hog title, but I could be wrong on that. I saw that earlier on social media. But all right, let's see what else we've got here from you guys. Remember, any questions, comments you have, let me know, and we'll jump into those as well. And again, remember, leave your scores. Night 1 SummerSlam. What did you think? I thought it was solid. I think, it definitely felt like the night 1, other than the ending. I think, night 2 is clearly the one that's more stacked, I think, from a match standpoint. So many stipulation matches tomorrow night, as we said. I think night 2 will be the better of the two nights. I don't think there's any question about that, even if night 1 certainly has the shock ending for some people so far. All right. By the way, I can tell my internet's starting to get a little unstable here, my connection. So if it cuts out a little bit, just listen to my voice. The feed may get a little bit messed up. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Dre asks, Naked Gun number 3 in the box office. Does that slow the momentum? Yeah, I mean, I just think with Cody, like, remember, we're already seeing Cody in a position where he's got to take the time off for the Street Fighter movie, I think, still, right? So, yeah, that's the thing. Like, either of these champions coming out, I feel like they still have movie commitments, don't they? I mean, we know Cena does, but Cody could be in that position. So he's got to do the Street Fighter thing just as Reigns does. I did see a report tonight on social media, maybe from Steve Mulhausen, that Reigns is going to film his Street Fighter part in September. So theoretically, you could still have Reigns do some stuff this month, and then maybe he goes to film that next month. So, yeah, Cody's getting opportunities now. And so I'm not saying we're getting close to like the end of the full-time Cody in WWE, but the man's getting a lot of attention, as he should. So, yeah. All right. Richard asks, does Punk now join Roman and Jey? I saw them in the ring together just a few weeks ago. I mean, that's the thing. Like, they have common interests now. They all want to destroy Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman. And that's where I think with Rollins winning, it does kind of seem like a situation where I think it's kind of a scenario where you look at it and feel like they don't necessarily need to add more members right now, because there had been the rumors that, they had been considering either Ricky Saints or Ethan Page as a possible call-up. Like I said, I don't know if Ethan Page is going to happen now, based on those reports about the CW loving that guy. He may stay in NXT for a while, but eventually they're going to add more to it, I would think. And I don't know if you need 2 more. I think you just need 1 more person. Would feel probably that number 4 would not be the worst idea. But if that happens, then you're like looking down the road several months from now and looking at War Games, I would think, and being like, okay, do you get another year of Roman and Punk on the same team, and Jay's there and Jimmy's there, and maybe, because again, they have the common goal. So, yeah. So we'll find out. All right. shout out for the $2 super chat. Really appreciate it. Could KO come back tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, we haven't heard anything about Kevin Owens, but it does sound like he did just undergo the surgery not long ago. I mean, the KO thing, I'm not going to lie, that sounded like a pretty rough situation where who knows when we see this guy back. So could he come back tomorrow, like in some way, shape, or form, and like be there? I'm sure, but like I don't think there's any possible way that Kevin Owens is wrestling anytime soon based on that surgery. So, yeah, I mean it's unfortunate because again, that's where we think about like some of these injuries they've had, especially the KO one, and where that kind of changed things maybe for Cody's story a little bit. Yeah, like you never know how that affected things back during WrestleMania season and all that, right? So, but yeah, I think it's KO is going to be out a while. So, all right. Brandon's got Roman versus Bron Breakker at Clash in Paris. I don't know if Roman's advertised for Clash in Paris, but like I said, when they do decide to do that match one-on-one, I think Bron Breakker's got to beat him. And I think they've set everything up to be that way, to where that's going to be kind of that defining match for Breakker. They're going to talk about it on commentary for years to come. And I can see Roman being the type of dude that's like, sure, I'm a part-time guy now, part-time, and I'll put this guy over because he's clearly he's clearly the future, right? Bron Breakker's one of the top 3 future stars in the company, no question. So, I don't know if it happens that soon though, Brandon. I'm not sure about that, but because I don't know Roman's schedule, we gotta look at that too. So, all right, what else we got here? Let's see. So, by the way, Frontline Sean says never thought for a single second that man was hurt. So, yeah, well, we'll see. I know a lot of people just were not buying it from day one. I did. I bought into it on night one. On Saturday night's main event, I was buying into it. But then I started to question things a little bit coming out of it. So, no question. All right. Let's see what else we got here from you guys in the comments. Again, always appreciate you jumping in with your thoughts. As I said earlier, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you haven't already. And on your way out, do that too. Helps the channel. Yeah, about to hit 14,000 subscribers. Pretty cool here on the channel. Remember, we started this about a year and a half ago. So, kind of fun to do that. I know our frequency isn't maybe what it was back then, but as you guys know, I've invited a little one into the world and all this other stuff since then. So it's been a little bit busy times, but all good. All right, let's see what else we've got here from you guys. Sigma said night 2 might be more stacked. What about quality over quantity? So I said going into this, I thought that the 3 matches to me that we could come out saying like they're the matches of the weekend were going to be Punk versus Gunther. And then I said to me, it's the 2 women's matches on night 2. And that is Becky and Lyra and the triple threat with Naomi, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. And so if I go into it still thinking that, I mean, Punk and Gunther delivered, and I fully expect those 2 women's matches to deliver tomorrow night. That, to me, gives the nod to night 2. And then, of course, you're going to have something big in the main event. We don't know what it's going to be, but something big is going to happen. And so I think night 2's still got a great chance to be a pretty good show. And I think everything really could deliver on night 2 when you really look at the card. I mean, even like AJ and Dominic, right? I think that's a pretty appealing match to me. And I've seen a lot of different opinions on that match. I've seen a lot of people sold on Dominic winning. I told you guys, I'm picking AJ in that one. And it's maybe more so because I want to see AJ win. I think you kind of give a fresh direction for the Intercontinental title, but I don't know. Dominic's got the AAA stuff and all that coming up. So do they want to keep the belt on him to be a double? I don't know. Like those are things too. So, all right, let's get to some more stuff here. LA Knight's a good question. He's a good talking point right now. No LA Knights on SummerSlam, and I'm sure you guys saw some of the things out there. Where what was it? Somebody had I don't know, it was an Instagram post or a tweet, something like that, where LA Knight had liked it. Someone had said like basically WWE should let him go be a main eventer somewhere else if they're not going to use him. I don't know. Like I told you guys, I thought that LA Knight kind of was in a position where he got the win against Rollins at Saturday night's main event, but now when you look back at it, you're just like, boy, it did nothing for him. And we know because, I mean, they played up the whole injury and everything like that. And so, yeah, like coming out of Money in the Bank, going into Money in the Bank, I just thought he was in a really good position, even though we kind of figured Rollins was going to win the match. But I'm really fascinated to see what's next for LA Knight because I don't really see much of a direction right now. And man, he's still so over. And that's what I'm still trying to figure out. He's very over. And so I've just got to see maybe when they're going to capitalize on that. And if, I keep saying it's winning the big matches. And the guy just does not have enough big wins on his WWE resume to this point. But he's still wildly over. So, yeah. Brandon says, how did you feel when you first heard Seth's music hit? Well, the more... to me, it's like WWE's camera tricks, right? You've watched it so long, and you're like, all right, I can tell they're starting to let this camera sit a little bit too long on this one shot. And you're like, okay, something's going on here. Like there was one, I think, where Punk had got the title. He stood up, and the referee is still behind him in the corner. And when I'm seeing that, I'm like, okay, why is the referee not left yet? And I'm questioning everything. And even though I don't think he was the actual referee that made the pin in the actual Punk versus Rollins match, if you want to call it that, I'm still thinking, boy, they're milking this one a lot. And, the music hits. But listen, Brandon, my first thought was that when he came out, I was like, this is a total misdirection, but not for tonight. I was like, they're going to show Rollins on crutches. He's going to go to the back, and we're all going to see the visual of like, oh, this guy's in no condition to cash in. And then he comes out tomorrow night. That seemed to be what they were teasing, but nope. He turns around. They do it there, and that's that. So it made sense for the story because he said he would never let Punk be the champion. And so Punk was the champion for a couple minutes, and that was that. So, yeah. So, all right. Yeah, I mean, you had no closing credits. They were still just kind of sitting there, and that's the beauty of what WWE does is they can do all that stuff just with the visuals, and it works out really well. So, Michael wants to know, we can do the Avengers again. We're going to do the end game here for night 2 in the main event. I just don't know who the Avengers would be, to be honest with you. Because I'm like, the only Avengers I can come up with would be The Rock, Travis Scott, and who? R-Truth? Ron Killings? I mean, Seth Rollins, I just, he only ties into it if it goes with Cody. I don't think he did have the thing with Cena at Night of Champions, but I don't know that I see the Avengers for this one. But maybe The Rock is the Avengers by himself. Who knows? So, yeah, it's a good point here, Brandon. Brandon brings up a good point. I mean, LA Knight does have the pin on Rollins. That's a good point. And now that we go back to it, that's a great point. So he can get a rematch for the championship. So I didn't even think about that earlier, but you're exactly right. I think that is absolutely something they will consider. So, but that shows you. I looked at LA Knight as such an afterthought that I didn't even mention him earlier. I'm not sure that's what I want to be doing. But, yeah, so you got Punk in there too. So, like I said, Rollins got a lot of challengers, a ton of them. He just got a ton of them. So, yeah, when we saw the video of him on crutches with his daughter, and it was Becky putting that video out, you knew something was up. So, the heel's playing it up. So, there you have it. All right, guys, we're going to hop off here shortly. Again, I appreciate you as always for jumping in. We did this for night 1. We'll do it tomorrow night. I'm glad this isn't a scenario where we're just like, all right, we do this one, and hey, I'll talk to you next month when we do this again. No, we're going to do this again tomorrow night for night 2. SummerSlam, night 2 reaction. It's going to be wild. We already know it. It's going to get something big's going to happen in the main event. We talked about all the possibilities earlier. All we know is something big's going down. And like I said, I really think tomorrow night could be the better of the cards. I think a lot of good matches that could deliver. And yes, I agree with Dwayne here. I think night 2 is going to be crazy. I think it's going to be pretty wild what's going to go down. So we're ready for it. We're set. Seth Rollins is your new World Heavyweight Champion. And you guys are the World Heavyweight Champions in my eyes. You always appreciate your support here of the channel. Chiming in makes for a fun discussion when we do this. And again, leave your thoughts, comments as well after the live stream. And yeah, hope you guys join tomorrow night. I'll set the stream as usual. Be sure to turn on those notifications so you know when we do go live tomorrow night after night 2. Maybe a few minutes later after night 2 tomorrow night. I've got a little bit of my writing work to do on the wrestling front. So we'll do it maybe a few minutes later after the show goes off the air. But we will jump in tomorrow night to talk about everything that happens. So hope you guys will join. I appreciate you as always for following the channel and all your support. And tomorrow night, WWE SummerSlam Night 2 reaction. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon at Wrestling Reaction.